Hi there! Do you really know what scarcity means? If you don't know what scarcity means, I will explain it to you briefly now. Listen carefully. I'll try to explain it simply. There are two different types of scarcity: relative scarcity and absolute scarcity. Remember, relative and absolute scarcity. Relative scarcity affects value depending on supply and demand. Absolute scarcity means that only demand exists, supply is limited. So, relative scarcity first. It could be, for example, gold or oil. A limited natural resource. Gold is a scarce resource, but no one knows how much is left to mine. Right? Thus there is a scarcity. If there is a sudden increase in the demand for gold, the price of gold will rise. Therefore, gold miners, who see the higher prices, will work overtime to produce as much gold as possible, because the profit margins are higher than they usually are. But the more gold the miners mine, the more the supply increases. Thus demand will also gradually decrease over time. And thus the price will also fall. So, relative scarcity affects value depending on supply and demand. Now let's talk about absolute scarcity. Absolute scarcity is when the supply of a resource cannot meet the demand. For example, a unique art object. And let's be even more specific than that. Mona Lisa is one of the most famous works of art. If the demand for Mona Lisa's artwork suddenly increases, supply will not be able to meet this. You cannot create more originals of Mona Lisa, right? And the author, Leonardo da Vinci, no longer lives, and can therefore not create more other. Here, the price is controlled entirely according to demand. What this means, then, is that in absolute scarcity there is a limited, fixed supply of a commodity. There is never a balance between supply and demand. You cannot create more regardless of whether the demand increases. The only output that can change is price. So again, absolute scarcity means that only demand exists, supply is limited. If we compare currencies with this, then Bitcoin is the Mona Lisa. Gold is gold. Fiat currencies, such as the dollar, are more or less just a piece of paper, where a central bank to some extent determines its value. Fiat currencies can also be created as much as you like at a very low cost. And the more you create, the less valuable they become, which is called inflation. Fiat money is something that states only created. There is really no real value here. Its value derived largely through trust in the governments that issue them. Saving your capital in fiat currencies can thus be an expensive affair in the end. Your savings capital may lose its value over time. Bitcoin is the solution to the inflation problem, because there will only be a total of 21 million. Forever. And no one can decide on its price, because no one decides on Bitcoin or its value. Here, only demand controls the price. Therefore, Bitcoin is even a safer and better method of saving than gold. That's it. Bye-bye. See you next time.